everybody, and welcome to the Mind of Marlin and another treetop talk here at the sweet spot on the big island of Hawaii. The ducks are fed, the chickens are fed, and now it's time to feed your head. Speaking of feeding, that's what this piece is about today. Now, sometimes sign language can say more than words. For instance, some gestures imply need. You can do this, and people will know that you're looking for food. But it could also be confused with, there's something stuck in my throat, can you take a look? In Hawaii, this is a shaka. But on the mainland, it's, I will call you. Some people may say, I have one thing to say to you, and this isn't it. Or others might say, can you read between the lines? Or they may do this. What does this mean? It means you have a weak supply of these. This means somebody is cuckoo, which when Mitch McConnell dies, the GOP won't let him go, just like they won't let Donald Trump go, and will mount his stuffed head onto a clock like this so they can have a constant reminder of the party's platform. But may we assume that the only time we have a bone to pick is after we've chewed the fat? And only after the bone is picked can you throw it to somebody. But at that point, the bone is dry, so there's not much to bone up on. There's a good reason to do a lot of things better. And one of them has to do with our feeding habits. Do we have to overindulge and drive through culinary faux pas? How well do you think your car would run if it was fed fast food? Exactly. The lines would get plugged up, it would be sluggish, it would go from 0 to 0 in no time at all. There are so many fast food establishments that the amount of greenhouse gas created from all of those idling cars, combined with all of the greenhouse gases created from cattle production and meat consumption, could point to the very real possibility that places like Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, In-N-Out Burger, Whataburger, Taco Bell, Del Taco, Der Wiener Schnitzel, Carl's Jr., Sonic, Jack in the Box, Hardee's, Arby's, Dairy Queen, A&W, White Castles, Checkers, Culver's, and Five Guys contribute enough greenhouse gases to strip the atmosphere off the moon. And the moon has no atmosphere, so that proves my point. People who consistently dine on this food don't have much taste. And they wouldn't notice the difference if you slipped in a meat substitute. Just don't tell them because they don't read the ingredients anyways. Governments across the globe must put a carbon tax or a greenhouse tax on these multinationals and make them pay through the nose or orifice of your choice for the damage they're doing to the planet. But that isn't going to get the forests that were cut down back in our lifetime or our children's lifetime. But by then you'll be dead and you won't care anyways what happens. But what do we do now? First, stop calling Burger King's plant-based burger an impossible burger, as it is possible. So it is false advertising, or in this case, a bait and switch. They tell you it's impossible and then make it possible. So anything's possible. It would be easy enough for the U.S. government, all governments, to subsidize these plant-based burgers so that they are much cheaper than meat, and then people will eat them. Take Hamburger Helper. They never told us that the secret ingredient was hands. But there it is in plain sight. Eat hands instead of dead cows. In a given year, U.S. cars burn some 1.4 billion gallons of fuel just idling. Not to mention idling trucks, which waste another 1.5 billion gallons. Collectively, we emit 58 million tons of carbon dioxide while we are essentially doing nothing. Using the fast food industry as an example and taking into account that the average McDonald's drive-through wait is 159 seconds, we can calculate that the company's consumers burn some 7.25 million gallons of gas each year waiting in a drive-through line. The figure for the entire U.S. fast food industry, roughly 50 million gallons. And seriously, wouldn't people eating fast food do themselves and the health industry a favor by walking from their cars and back? That walk will burn the equivalent of about 1.85 French fries in calories. Hey, it adds up. I personally think that all parking places should be at least 100 yards from every fast food chain door. It does two things: discourages people from eating what could only be described as the closest thing resembling shit that isn't really shit, and people getting in those steps to make them a little healthier, because at least they're walking to and from their triple coronary bypass special. Wouldn't it be appropriate for companies that make unhealthy food to pay a health tax or an unhealth tax, as they're contributing to the high cost of health insurance? Other countries that seem to be able to offer universal health care for all also don't populate their countrysides with this bullshit food. I'm no saint, and I have eaten a burger from a fast food restaurant, but only if I can't find any roadkill that I can skin out and eat with my bare hands. You gotta admit, all those tires running over does a great job tenderizing what can be very tough meat. The world's climate isn't changing, it's already changed. Texas weather this last winter was literally hell freezing over. The Pacific Northwest and Canada having temperatures hotter than Las Vegas is a bet that any Vegas bookie would have given you 10-1 odds on and would have lost. What else do we need to see? What else do you need to see? There is no plan B when it comes to going to some place to escape this. This is the only Earth we have. The only planet we will ever have. So where do we start? We start at the beginning. This is a cartoon I drew, and I've yet to find a countering argument. The irony here is that we're killing our planet with consumption. And consumption was the name of a disease that killed hundreds of millions of people over the ages going back to ancient Greece. It was eventually called tuberculosis. And it was called consumption because the disease seemed to consume the individual, with their weight drastically dropping as the disease progressed. Here it's just the opposite. Now, as people are dying as their weight increases, it is a form of slow motion suicide, and their habits are not just killing themselves, but taking the planet and everything else living on it with them. On April 1st, 1970, President Richard Nixon signed legislation officially banning cigarette ads on television and radio. So it is possible. We can ban ads for fast food, or at least at the end of it, do what they do with alcohol ads with the caveat at the end: eat responsibly and have a designated driver. After all, we don't want French fry grease all over the steering wheel. There's a world that needs saving.